It's Rich Disney Homestead. How in the heck are you? All right, barn chats are going to be reserved for a bit because we're going to be primarily covering, are you an informed voter? Do you really know what's going on? Or are you like a lot of the young people from colleges and so forth last year that are in 2020 that voted for Joe Biden because he was going to get rid of their college debt? They're mad in hell right now because not only is he delivering them up Stivo and the money on their college, they're going to also go into the military because he's going to have to go with the draft because we're getting knee deep into too much junk and we don't have the military for that. They're not too happy. And maybe the young people out there are ready now to learn something. And when they walked out from finally deciding what the Constitution was all about, signed it, Ben Franklin, they say, walked out of the hall there, and a woman walked up to him and said, Dr. Franklin, what kind of government did you give us? Ben Franklin supposedly responded with, a republic, ma'am, if you can keep it. And all the founding fathers back then said the same thing. For the American people to keep their freedom, we must remain vigilant and become a very informed electorate. For a lot of years, right leading into the greatest generation in World War II, politics were tabletop conversations. They wanted to know what their leaders were doing, how they were voting. They would challenge them. At the beginning of this video, I want you to pause it right here, because first you have to understand how our government works. The first link in the description is something done by Princeton University. It's a very short video, but it's going to show you something that you really need to start thinking about. Who does your government listen to? Like George Carlin said, they listen to a very small club, a very small group of people, and you aren't part of that club. You and I aren't part of it. So take a minute, go take a look. Then when you come back, you'll be a little bit better informed about what we're going to be talking about in this series. You back? All right. So, seeing that, you know now who controls your government, your donor class, your money people, Wall Street, bankers, things of this nature. If you're to ever control this country and to be free, okay, because right now you're not very free, to be free and to put the government in its place, it's going to be an uphill battle, folks. And it's going to require each and every one of you to get out there and to educate yourself of what your politicians are doing, not what they tell you they're doing, what they're doing, and hold them to it, and hold them accountable. You only have one shot at them, and that's elections. And if you keep putting the same morons back in there, they're just going to continue to get richer off the lobbyists, the fat cats, and the donors. And they're going to ignore you. Why? Because if you really got into a politician's head, most of them think the American voters are idiots. So, I'm going to do a series of things trying to show you, is there ways we can fix this? But it's going to take us rolling up our sleeves. And I know everybody's going to say, oh my God, I work all day and I got to... Okay, that's fine. You have a depression coming at you. Full blown, some are even saying worse than the 30s depression headed toward us. Brought on by the irresponsibility and the total misconduct of our federal government. When you can't feed your family, it'll be a little late for that to try to stop them, isn't it? Yeah. That's what I'm talking about here. Let's look at old Mr. Biden. I love the guy. Have you ever wanted to play the what if game when you're thinking about stuff? What if things would have happened differently? What if Hitler, who really wanted to be an artist, that was what he wanted to do with his life. Adolf Hitler wanted to be an artist. Would the world have changed if he would have been? Think about that for a minute. Let's look at Joe Biden. Back in 1965, he should have been expelled from the university he was attending for plagiarism. What if that would have happened? Well, he'd have probably done what his daddy did and went to work with his dad in the coal mines, huh? Like we keep getting told. Joe Biden's daddy was a used car salesman. Seriously. So, yeah. Okay, everybody raise your right hand if you trust used car salesman, okay? So the apple didn't fall far from the tree on this thing. Let's see here. Yeah. He got to retake the course. The school didn't kick him out. And Ojo, as being one of the worst students in the class, I think he was like 76 out of 85 in the class. I know he has multiple degrees and was in the top of his class. And if you don't know, that's all BS at this point. You were really uninformed. Stay home on election day. Okay? You're an idiot. Or you're watching way too much mainstream media. I watch mainstream media. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with watching mainstream media, but I go out and I dig on the internet and I find the real truth. And 9 times out of 10, here's what you're going to find out of mainstream Western media. They will either flat out lie to you, or they won't even talk about an issue that's pretty important to you. Anyway, let's get back to Mr. Biden, my favorite guy. He's just done a wonderful job as president. And if he pushes a little bit harder, he'll finally get somebody to sling missiles our direction and end this whole mess. We are teetering on that. But let's see. Got caught cheating in law school, which was just a harbinger of his many scandals and embarrassments to come as the future president of the United States. Let's see here. On his first presidential campaign, in 1987, he ran for president. Did Joe learn anything from his college days? No. He got caught plagiarizing a speech. The media just took him apart and turned him into a laughingstock, and he withdrew from the election. But Delaware still loved him, Took him back as a senator. Okay, so anyway, no matter how much plagiarizing, racial gaffes, corruptions, allegations, Biden's been able to rise in power. Even when he was accused of sexual assaulting a Senate intern at Capitol Hill, which I followed her story a bit, I think there's a lot of credence to it. Primarily because she wasn't even the one that turned him in. Her mother did. She was too ashamed of it, too embarrassed by it. This kind of sounds like what a woman might do. Also fearing that he was a strong politician. Her mother's the one that instigated the hell no and pushed the issue. So she did. But she never got any money. She never tried to sue him, none of this kind of stuff. But her mother wanted her name cleared. Me Too movement was going on right about that time when her mother pushed it forward. That's what stimulated the mother to say, hey, there's other women out there that'll stand behind you. Well, let me tell you something. Once they accused Joe Biden, the Me Too movement just suddenly, if you notice, pretty much just disappeared out of the limelight of media. Crossed the wrong party. And here we go. They're talking about, it had been a career killer for most Americans. With Biden, he was just unscathed by the whole. Even as he campaigned from his basement in 2020, anyone with an internet connection, go out and take a look and see the guy groping young kids and women and stiffing their hair and doing, the dude's creepy. Okay, I don't have any evidence of anything other than that. He's really creepy. 2 men went to jail in Florida for trying to sell his daughter's diary. There was things in her diary about taking showers with her dad, nude showers, so forth, and inappropriate behaviors. Didn't list out detail in her diary, so nobody knows for sure what that's all about. But the fact that she said that those showers and so forth and inappropriate, behaviors like that was part of the reason she thought she was very promiscuous as she got older. Something went on there. We don't know for sure. But it sure doesn't look very good. So far, his presidency's been a joke. We are in a financial state in this country to where you always get, anytime there's any kind of upset in the financial markets, you get the doom and gloomers out there running around. But you also have a lot of guys that I've been following over the years that even through 2008 said, yeah, it's bad, but it's not a crisis, are now running around going, we're headed for a crisis. Our bond market is something you want to pay very, very close attention to in our bond ratings. Countries are cashing in their bonds. And when we're talking about cashing in, we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars worth of bonds being cashed in. Next year, from what I understand, China's got the last of its 700 billion that they're cashing in. Japan's got another close to $1 trillion that they plan to cash in next year. Moody's, Fitch, these guys, these rating agencies are downgrading our bonds to, they're going to be pretty much down in the negative categories now. Our financial system in this country, the sanctions. Joe has slung sanctions on countries all over the world. Well, yeah, the British and so forth. Oh, we're gonna turn the Russian economy into tatters, just destroy them, and they're going to have a big revolt over there, and they're going to drive Putin out, and it's going to be awful, and we're going to get rid of Russia. Yeah. Well, let me tell you something. Most of Europe's in serious recession. Germany and several countries like that are done. They're done. They've lost their industrial base. They're done. It'll take them years and years, probably a lot of decades, to ever even get back to where they were at before. Most all of Europe's hurting pretty bad. Look at America. We are in serious, serious financial trouble. They like to tell you, oh, inflation's not that bad. Go to a grocery store, you jerks. Okay? Anybody that shops knows better than that. Home prices are dropping. Mortgage rates are going through the roof. Even new cars and trucks and things of this nature, their prices are dropping like a rock because they can't sell them. Unemployment's beginning to tick up. We're just at the beginning stage. Okay? We have the world turning on us. We are losing. And the problem with this whole thing is any major empire, and these clowns in Washington, D.C. think they're an empire. They think they run the show. Any country in the past, Rome, the Greeks, you name it, they always try to end up, when they're losing their power, they always take your country to war. Look at us. We're parked over in the Middle East where Israel's doing some really not so smart things. Secondary. UN General Assembly, the same week before all this broke loose, had ruled that the United States was in violation of international law by maintaining bases in Syria, stealing Syrian oil, ordered the U.S. to withdraw its troops immediately, said that the Syrians have a legitimate, lawful right to start firing upon those troops if you don't get them out of there. You're in violation of international law. Guess what? Same week, they did the same thing with the troops that we have in Iran or in Iraq. Told us to withdraw those troops immediately. We were in violation of international law. Now, we usually just fire upon these guys that bomb the snot out of people in violation of international law, but it's okay for us to ignore it. Then you had the French president pop up and go, about that gas attack. That's already been done, investigated, over. But the French are trying to bring it up again, just to have a reason for the U.S. dragging its feet over there. France and Biden, I think, are joined at the hip. So we're in two countries where the UN has said we are in violation of international law, and we are still there. And guess what's happening in those bases? They're being attacked. But we don't know. We know they've taken some casualties. We don't know how many American boys have died over there. But they're going to, because they're coming for them. And they will take them back. Russia's even getting involved in this. Okay, China's over there at the Strait of Hormuz protecting their oil supplies. Fire on one of those Chinese warships and see what kind of hell breaks loose. We better wake up at what this diddling old fool that we have in the White House is doing before we end up in World War III. Look at what they did in Ukraine. We're behind you all the way, which I thought was stupid. We go in, we do a coup, we arm to the teeth a bunch of Nazis, we send them down to start killing Russians. If you knew Russia and knew Russians, you'd go, that's a little like attacking L.A. These people, they just want to go about their lives. They're a very modern culture. We should learn some things from the Russians, like, number one, nobody's crapping on their streets and leaving trash everywhere and got tents propped up. They take care of their homeless people. They put them in houses. What do you know, son of a gun? Learn about the culture. Do not buy all the nonsense coming out of the West, folks. Don't do it. Don't do it. Russia is not the evil one here, but you have to understand the Russians. Unlike America, although we're raising Cain about the American citizens over in that Hamas has got, to Russian, if you are a traditional Russian, you are Orthodox Christian, you speak the language, you are part of the tradition, and you honor the traditions of Russia, then you are a Russian. As far as they're concerned, they don't care where in the world you're at. They will protect you. Do you think the people of Donbass and all that over there, Russia didn't view them as their people? America funded these Nazis and equipped these Nazis in Ukraine, and for 9 years, they killed 14 to 16,000 civilians. You don't think Russia had a reason to say, hey, guys, enough? You're going to have to spend the time looking at what's going on in the world. Know the voting records of your politicians. Call them on it. Try to get good people to get involved in politics, and that's tough right now. Why would somebody want to get involved in that snake venomous piece of crap thing they call politics? We have to take this thing back, and what this series is going to be about, steps that we can start taking to get it back. And the first one is, take a look at that link in the description. It explains what the problem is. They don't listen to us. We got to fix that. Once we change the way politicians get their donations and get the lobbyists out of Washington, D.C., to where there's no more exchanging hands with our politicians for papers. And if you get caught exchanging favors with our politicians, you're going to go to prison for bribery. And the politicians go into prison for accepting a bribe and enforce it. Things like this can be done and take care of this issue. We have to remove the donors. Okay? It has gotten so far out of hand that it's the donors that run this country, not the voters. We're going to have to let the politicians know the voters are back in charge. This is a nation of, by, and for the people. And the closest government to the people is the states. See what I'm saying? This is a country of nation states. We're not one big country that they're all in lockstep. We are a country of nation states, each with its own rules and regulations. Okay? That's who governs the people, and the people run the states. That's where we begin. I do love you guys, and I appreciate you. But let me tell you something. If we don't take these elections seriously, if we keep voting the way we've been voting as Americans, we're soon going to be slaves. We're soon going to be slaves. There's plans out there to do things like remove your retirement accounts, give you a pittance of a guaranteed income, but you'll own nothing and be happy for it. I don't think most people would be happy with it. Wake up, America. Love you guys. I appreciate you. I'll keep the other ones short, I promise. Y'all take care. See you soon.